Breaking tonight on ABC News Live Prime, the Strait of Hormuz reopens as the U.S. and Iran maintain a shaky ceasefire. Iran says it will keep control of the crucial waterway, warning that Israel's constant attacks on Lebanon are violating the ceasefire agreement. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu agreeing to hold talks with Lebanon in Washington, D.C. next week. Talks between the U.S. and Iran expected to begin this weekend. First Lady Melania Trump's surprise appearance in front of cameras, blasting reports linking her to convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, what she is now demanding.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
ROTC cadets described the moment they took down a gunman during a terror attack. Their instructor, already wounded, still fighting the shooter. In his first televised interview in the U.S. since leaving the Biden administration, we sit down with the former Defense Secretary, Lloyd Austin.
I certainly don't believe we've seen a regime change. We've seen a leadership change. I think the regime remains intact.
Authorities detaining the husband of a woman who claims his wife fell off a boat and was swept away in the Bahamas. Her daughter now sharing the voicemail she says her stepfather left her after her mother disappeared. A school board member is censured for an inappropriate comment to a female student. Now he's refusing to step down. Fidel Castro's daughter, Alina Fernandez, joins us to talk about her experiences in communist Cuba and life on the other end. And countdown to splashdown. The crew of Artemis II returning in just about 24 hours following their historic trip to the moon.
From ABC News World Headquarters in New York, this is Prime with Linsey Davis.
And good evening, everyone. I'm Juju Chang in for Linsey Davis. Thanks so much for streaming with us. We are tracking that tenuous ceasefire in the Middle East, but we begin at home with that bombshell moment at the White House. First Lady Melania Trump's surprise appearance in front of the cameras, blasting reports linking her to Jeffrey Epstein. The First Lady insisted she had never been friends with Epstein, was never one of his victims, and said Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. In a moment, you will hear what she's now saying about emails she exchanged with Epstein's associate, Ghislaine Maxwell. Those emails were released as part of the Epstein files. And also tonight, word from the Epstein victims in a letter saying they aren't happy with Melania Trump's statements today. Mary Bruce leads us off from the White House.
Late this afternoon, the extraordinary moment at the White House.
Good afternoon.
First Lady Melania Trump coming before the cameras to deny she had any relationship with sex offender Jeffrey Epstein, accusing unnamed people of, quote, looking to cause damage to her good name.
The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today.
The First Lady insists Epstein and his accomplice, convicted sex trafficker Ghislaine Maxwell, were not her friends.
I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell.
The First Lady addressing the emails she exchanged with Maxwell, released as part of the Justice Department's Epstein files. In October 2002, Melania Trump writing, "Dear G, how are you? Nice story about JE and NY Mag. You look great on the picture. I know you are very busy flying all over the world. How is Palm Beach? I cannot wait to go down. Give me a call when you are back in NY. Have a great time. Love, Melania."
My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence.
The First Lady emphatic that Epstein did not introduce her to her husband, the president.
I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998.
She says she had no knowledge of Epstein's crimes.
I have never had any knowledge of Epstein's abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island.
The president has called the Epstein story a hoax.
I know it's a hoax. It's started by Democrats.
Urging Americans to move on.
I think it's really time for the country to get onto something else. Really.
But today, the First Lady declaring it's time to, quote, work openly and transparently to uncover the truth.
Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone.
Melania Trump saying all of Epstein's victims should have a chance to testify.
Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth.
And Mary Bruce joins us now from the White House. Mary, do we have any idea whether the president might agree with the First Lady about Epstein's victims having a chance to testify before Congress?
Yeah, Juju, it's a good question and one we have posed to the White House. We've asked if the president agrees with his wife that Epstein's victims should be allowed to finally testify before Congress, but so far no response. And it's still not clear why the First Lady decided to speak out now, Juju.
And now, Mary, some Epstein survivors just put out a pointed response to the First Lady's comments, as you know, accusing her of, quote, deflecting responsibility.
And Juju, let me read to you some of this statement from Epstein's survivors. They say, quote, asking more of them now is a deflection of responsibility, not justice. They go on to say the First Lady is now shifting the burden onto survivors under politicized conditions that protect those with power, naming the Justice Department, law enforcement, prosecutors, and the Trump administration, which they say still has not fully complied with the Epstein Files Transparency Act. Juju.
Those survivors continuing to find a voice. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you.
And Iran says tonight it has reopened the Strait of Hormuz, but it still controls the passageway. 48 hours after President Trump called for the ceasefire, demanding the strait open immediately, it appears only a few tankers have passed through. Iran insists a major part of the ceasefire deal is not being met, demanding Israel end its sweeping attacks on Lebanon. The president has just posted on social media that Iran was doing a poor job of allowing oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and accused Iran of being in violation of its agreement with the U.S. Chief Foreign Correspondent Ian Pannell reports from the region again tonight.
Tonight, nearly 48 hours after President Trump called for that ceasefire with Iran, the number one condition to open the Strait of Hormuz immediately. Tonight, it'd appear just 3 cargo ships getting through that critical passageway today, where 20% of the world's oil remains at a standstill tonight, showing just how fragile this truce is. And the president late today warning Iran better not be charging tolls to go through the strait, saying if they are, they better stop now. The regime saying it'll keep control of the vital waterway, but before the president started this war, there was unfettered access through the strait. Iran did not control it. And tonight, Iran saying part of the US ceasefire deal is not being met, pointing to Israel's sweeping and deadly attacks in Lebanon. Trump insisting Lebanon isn't part of the ceasefire deal, but Iran says it is, calling Israel's attacks on Lebanon a violation of the truce. A source telling ABC News President Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to scale back the strikes and open direct talks with Lebanon. Netanyahu today agreeing to hold talks in the coming days. Overnight, Vice President J.D. Vance making it clear to Iran Lebanon isn't part of the deal.
If Iran wants to let this negotiation fall apart in a conflict where they were getting hammered over Lebanon, which has nothing to do with them and which the United States never once said was part of the ceasefire, that's ultimately their choice. We think that would be dumb, but that's their choice.
And tonight, with this truce wavering, gas prices in the US now at $4.16 a gallon, up $1.20 since the war began. And US crude oil just under $100 per barrel. With the Strait of Hormuz still largely at a standstill tonight, 2 days since the ceasefire was announced.
And Ian joins us now from Tel Aviv. Ian, let's turn for a moment to the situation in Lebanon. The IDF is continuing to pound areas in southern Lebanon, but the State Department will soon mediate talks between the two countries?
Yeah, that's right. And this is something that's come about from a phone call between President Trump and Prime Minister Netanyahu, basically calling on Israel to lower the tempo of its strikes and also have some kind of direct talks with the Lebanese government. There are a number of problems here because, of course, Israel isn't fighting the Lebanese government, it's fighting Hezbollah, the Iranian-backed proxy group inside the country, and there's no suggestion of talks with them. And there's also a question about how influential the Lebanese government would be on Hezbollah. But I think we should expect a lowering of the tempo, especially when these talks get underway in Pakistan between Iran and the US. I think there'll be pressure on Israel to try and wrap things up. But don't forget, they've got thousands of troops occupying parts of the country, and ending this military operation doesn't seem to be something that members of the Israeli cabinet want, and it certainly won't happen quickly.
So many thorny issues. Ian, thank you. In his first televised interview in the U.S. since leaving the Biden administration, we're gratified to be joined by former Defense Secretary in the Biden administration, Lloyd Austin. Secretary Austin is among the most accomplished Pentagon officials in military history, having served as Vice Chief of Staff of the Army and head of U.S. Central Command, or CENTCOM, before joining Joe Biden's cabinet as the nation's first African-American Secretary of Defense. Secretary, thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure.
Well, you published a weighty op-ed in the New York Times this week titled, "Now We Know What a Modern War Looks Like," where you outline the lessons the U.S. can already take away from this war with Iran. More on those lessons in just a minute. But first, I just have to ask you, if you were sitting in Pete Hegseth's shoes 40 days ago, would you have advised the president to launch this war?
Well, I certainly won't speculate on what I would have done or not done. I will say that I know a lot about this problem set, having been the Central Command commander and served so long in the U.S. military, and having fought in Iraq, so I know a lot about the region. I don't know what the dynamics were that led to the decision. I would just say that the President of the United States has access to a lot of very detailed and good information. He gets input from a number of advisors, his Secretary of State, in addition to the Secretary of Defense, but the Director of National Intelligence, the Director of the CIA, and so there's a lot that goes into that decision. I don't know what the inputs were, what our allies were saying, and certainly we are a part of an alliance that includes Israel as a. And so I don't know what the exchanges were there, but clearly, I think now it's time to focus on. So we are where we are. It's time to focus on where we go from here. What do we do about it, and where do we want to wind up?
Sure. We know that there's a huge difference between having a military plan versus a strategic plan. Do you think that the U.S. has met its strategic objectives in this war?
Well, we've never really been clear about what the strategic objectives were. We've seen that bounce around quite a bit. What I would tell you is that as a Secretary of Defense and also as a combatant commander, I worked hard each and every day to make sure that I understood what the strategic objectives were, and that the operational and tactical objectives enabled us accomplishing those strategic objectives.
Well, let's talk about some of those strategic objectives. One of them was to prevent Iran from getting a nuclear weapon. They portrayed it as an imminent threat. Was it?
I don't know. Again, I didn't have access to the intelligence reads that the president would have had. But from what I know about going into this, I don't think that they would have been close to developing a nuclear weapon capability, because of some of the things that were done back in June, and so I think everyone was a bit surprised to hear that we were concerned that the development of a weapon was imminent. So.
Now, your experience in the Army includes commanding combat forces in both Iraq and in Afghanistan. And you wrote in your op-ed, "The Iran war is strikingly different from America's other recent wars in the Middle East and Afghanistan, and that it looks more like the Russia-Ukraine war." What did you mean by that? Well,
what we're seeing, Juju, is a lot of the use of a lot of unmanned aerial vehicles or drones, the rapid development of additional surveillance capabilities. We're seeing things like loitering munitions, in this fight, and that's having an impact that some did not anticipate. Now, as we enable Ukraine in its fight against Russia, we certainly went to school on what was happening in that fight. We studied, what Russia was doing and how Ukraine was responding to that, and we learned a lot of lessons. And one of the things that we learned was the value of inexpensive, expendable capabilities like drones that can be married with our higher end capabilities to increase our overall capabilities.
Now we're hearing tonight for the first time from ROTC cadets who helped take down a gunman during a terror attack in their classroom last month at Old Dominion University in Virginia. Chief Justice Correspondent Pierre Thomas has that story.
Tonight, for the first time, we hear the riveting accounts of those ROTC cadets who stopped an ISIS sympathizer from slaughtering their class. It's just before 11 a.m., and Mohammed Jallo shows up at a classroom at Old Dominion University in Norfolk, Virginia.
He asked, is this the ROTC classroom?
I said, I was like, yeah, like we're ROTC.
Then all hell breaks loose.
He pulled out his gun. It was a Glock 44 .22 caliber.
And shouted, Allahu Akbar, and began shooting.
The ROTC instructor, Lieutenant Colonel Brandon Shaw, an Army helicopter pilot who served in Iraq and Afghanistan, sprang into action.
Colonel Shaw lunges at the guy and starts wrestling with him upright.
Two of the students had knives.
So I just go in there, just start stabbing him. We're all in a pile. And because he's still a threat, I'm still stabbing him.
We tried to do to get the gun away from him, and he wasn't letting go of the gun. And I just happened to have a knife on me at the time. And Jetta and I, we were like neutralized this guy.
And Pierre Thomas joins us now from D.C. Pierre, we understand that some of those students have already been honored for their actions.
The students involved in the fight have been honored. Colonel Shaw, who was shot, he died. He has been awarded the Purple Heart in death. Juju.
Pierre Thomas, thank you. What heroism.
Pleasure.
A doctor has been found guilty of trying to kill his wife while on a hike in Hawaii. But after 8 hours of deliberations, a jury convicted the 47-year-old man of a lesser charge. ABC News Live brought you that verdict live last night. And our Trevor Alt has more tonight.
Tonight, the Hawaii anesthesiologist accused of trying to kill his wife during a hike on her birthday has been found guilty.
We, the jury in this case, finds the defendant guilty of attempted manslaughter based upon extreme mental or emotional disturbance.
Dr. Gerhard Koenig burying his face in his hands after he heard the verdict. Prosecutors argued Koenig was obsessed with an alleged emotional affair his wife Ariel had had with a coworker. They say he tried pushing her off this steep cliffside, then tried injecting her with a syringe before bashing her head with a jagged rock.
I'm saying, what the are you doing? Get off me. And he's saying, like, you're done.
Dr. Koenig testified he only hit his wife in self-defense after she attacked him first.
You reacted to defend yourself in the heat of that moment. You said yes?
Yes. But the jury heard bombshell testimony from Koenig's 20-year-old son, Emil, who said his dad called him and confessed
that Ari, my stepmom, had been cheating on him and that he tried to kill her.
The jury convicted the doctor of a lesser charge, attempted manslaughter based upon extreme mental or emotional disturbance, which the jury foreperson said the couple both testified to.
Both of them both agreed that there was some emotional disturbance in their relationship.
Juju, Dr. Koenig's sentencing is set for August, and with this lighter charge, now instead of facing the possibility of life in prison, he faces a maximum of 20 years. Juju.
Our thanks to Trevor. Sean Diddy Combs and his prosecution team argued today that his prison sentence should be reduced. But a 3-judge panel of 2nd U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals appeared skeptical. It comes after Combs was found guilty of transporting people across state lines for drug-fueled sex parties. He was acquitted of the more serious charges of racketeering, conspiracy, and sex trafficking, but convicted on 2 lesser counts of transportation to engage in prostitution. Combs's lawyers are now saying he should not have been convicted to begin with because his sexual exploits are protected, they argue, under the First Amendment. A Tennessee school board member is under fire after putting his arm around a female student and referring to her as hot. Video shows Washington County board member Keith Irvin at a meeting last Thursday seeming to repeatedly touch the student.
God, you're hot. You know that? Damn. Where do you go to school at?
I go Crockett.
All right.
Now, parents have called for him to step down and blasted the board for not intervening. Irvin says his comments were taken out of context. The school board has voted to censure or publicly reprimand Irvin. And coming up, the countdown to splashdown is on. We look back at all the Artemis II crew accomplished during this historic moon mission. Plus, our Linsey Davis sits down with the daughter of the late Fidel Castro, now the focus of a new documentary. And the newest animals added to the endangered species list and why they were added. Welcome back. It's been an awe-inspiring 8 days for the Artemis astronauts as they speed back towards Earth tonight. What comes next in the mission and what will it mean for possible future trips to the moon and beyond? Our Gio Benitez has the highlights from the trip so far and much more on the exciting moments ahead.
A historic and iconic challenge.
I believe that this nation should commit itself to achieving the goal before this decade is out
to reach for the stars,
of landing a man on the moon and returning him safely to the Earth.
Has lifted off once again.
Booster ignition and liftoff. The crew of Artemis II now bound for the moon. Humanity's next great voyage begins.
Integrity, good rotation.
Good luck. Godspeed, Artemis II. Let's go.
For the first time in 52 years, astronauts have left Earth's orbit, shattering the record for the farthest humans have ever traveled away from our planet. The 10-day, 695,000-mile round-trip journey began with a day orbiting around the Earth.
Welcome on board the Integrity spacecraft.
We're so proud to support the journey to the moon.
Then it was all systems go to head to the moon.
We have the start of the translunar injection burn that will send the crew around the moon.
Getting ready for rendezvous and Proctops demonstration.
The history-making crew, NASA astronauts, Commander Reed Weissman, pilot Victor Glover, mission specialist Christina Cook, and Canadian astronaut and mission specialist Jeremy Hansen. Victor and Christina making history as the first black person and first woman to leave low Earth orbit. Jeremy, the first non-U.S. astronaut to go to the moon. This mission may lay the groundwork for an eventual moon base, and maybe one day even humans setting foot on Mars. Do you feel the weight of history knowing that you're going to be traveling farther than any other human?
You know, it's a remarkable thing. You would think it would be weighty, but we just feel like we're lifted up by the team that supports us, and you just sort of execute the plan.
We had the chance to speak with the crew on their way to the moon, some 20,000 miles from Earth.
We call amazing things that humans do moonshots for a reason, because this brought us together and showed us what we can do when we put, not just putting our differences aside, when we bring our differences together and use all the strengths to accomplish something great.
And beyond the grandiose mission, what the actual day-to-day on board looks like. I heard that there was a little bit of an issue with the toilet. Which one of you was the plumber?
I'm the space plumber. I'm proud to call myself the space plumber. I like to say that it is probably the most important piece of equipment on board. So we were all breathing a sigh of relief when it turned out to be just fine.
Throughout the trip, NASA waking up the astronauts with different songs.
Give me the green light. Get out, go get that money. It's time to work. Hey.
And how is it that you take a nap in there? What does sleeping even look like?
Well, let's see. So we've been off the planet for, about 30 hours now, and we've had 2 very short naps. We actually just gathered for our first meal together in space. That is how busy we have been the last day and a half. It has been really an amazing beginning flight plan. But sleeping here is it's actually sort of comical.
On Monday, the astronauts were woken up with a special message from Apollo 13 veteran Jim Lovell, who passed away last year.
Hello, Artemis 2. It's a historic day, and I know how busy you'll be, but don't forget to enjoy the view.
At 252,756 miles from planet Earth, the crew besting Apollo 13's record by more than 4,000 miles.
We do so in honoring the extraordinary efforts and feats of our predecessors in human space exploration. But we most importantly choose this moment to challenge this generation and the next to make sure this record is not long-lived.
The astronauts becoming the first humans to ever see some parts of the far side of the moon, snapping high-resolution photos and videos while narrating what they are seeing.
We can actually see the moon and Earth at the same time right now.
Today, for all humanity, you're pushing beyond that frontier.
To commemorate the mission, the team suggesting naming 2 of the unnamed craters on the moon, one after their spacecraft integrity, the other in memory of Commander Reed Weissman's wife, Carol, who died of cancer.
It's a bright spot on the moon. And we would like to call it Carol. And you spell that C-A-R-R-O-L-L.
After that lunar flyby, the crew sharing some extraordinary images of what they saw, including a solar eclipse only the 4 of them could see.
This is continues to be unreal. The sun has gone behind the moon. It is absolutely spectacular, surreal. There's no adjectives. I'm going to need to invent some new ones to describe what we are looking at out this window. After all of the amazing sights that we saw earlier, we just went sci-fi.
Slingshotting back to Earth, traveling about 4 days before re-entering Earth's atmosphere and splashing down into the Pacific Ocean. It will be the first time the Artemis heat shield has been tested with humans re-entering the Earth's atmosphere, NASA assuring the public and astronauts it's safe. After splashdown and the completion of the Artemis 2 mission, the goal of Artemis 4 and 5 will be to get astronauts back on the moon's surface for the first time since Apollo 17.
And as we leave the moon and towards Litchfield, we leave as we came, and God willing, as we shall return, with peace and hope for all mankind.
63 years after that iconic JFK speech.
For the eyes of the world now look into space, to the moon and to the planets beyond. And we have vowed that we shall not see it governed by a hostile flag of conquest, but by a banner of freedom and peace.
A new hope about the promise and possibility of space to unite us once again.
We will always choose Earth. We will always choose each other.
In all of this emptiness, this is a whole bunch of nothing, this thing we call the universe. You have this oasis, this beautiful place that we get to exist together. This is an opportunity for us to remember where we are, who we are, and that we are the same thing and that we got to get through this together.
So poignant. Our thanks to Gio Benitez. ABC News Live, of course, will bring you live coverage of Artemis 2's return beginning tomorrow night at 7 p.m. Eastern. And coming up, the communist leader Fidel Castro ruled Cuba with an iron fist for nearly 5 decades. But one of his daughters, Elena Fernandez, opposed her father's regime. We'll hear from her as her new biographical documentary is about to make its debut. And a close call for deputies in Florida during a traffic stop. Stay with us. And welcome back to Prime. Here's a look at the stories making headlines right now. President Trump posted on social media tonight that Iran was doing a poor job of allowing oil to pass through the Strait of Hormuz and accused Iran of being in violation of its agreement with the U.S. Iran says the strait is open, but only 3 known ships got through today. Iran says part of this U.S. ceasefire deal is not being met, pointing to Israel's deadly attacks on Lebanon. Meanwhile, a source told ABC News that President Trump told Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu to scale back the strikes and open direct talks with Lebanon. Netanyahu today agreed to hold talks in the coming days. First Lady Melania Trump spoke out in a surprise statement at the White House today, addressing rumors about her and Jeffrey Epstein. She said the lies linking the two need to end. The First Lady declared she was not a victim of Epstein and denied any knowledge of his crimes. She added she never had a relationship with the late sex offender or his convicted accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell. She also called for public hearings into the Epstein controversy. The Artemis II astronauts are set to re-enter the Earth's atmosphere tomorrow after their historic flyby of the moon. The Orion capsule is scheduled to splash down off the coast of San Diego, concluding the historic 10-day space journey. And New York hip-hop pioneer Africa Bambaataa has died. TMZ reported he died from complications of cancer. Bambaataa, whose real name is Lance Taylor, was a popular DJ who later recorded his own music. He collaborated with many artists, including James Brown and George Clinton. Africa Bambaataa was 68. And coming up here on Prime, he brought communism to the Western Hemisphere, and his own daughter fought fiercely for her country, but against her father's legacy. Linsey Davis's conversation with the daughter of Fidel Castro. And this year's Tony Awards host has been announced. Details on who will take center stage during Broadway's biggest night coming right up. Well, she is a producer, a director, and a fierce opponent of the Castro regime in Cuba. The conversation surrounding her homeland is so personal, she has a biographical documentary debuting at the Miami Film Festival tomorrow. But why is the documentary focused on her? Well, maybe it's because she is the daughter of Fidel Castro. The film is an intimate look at the duality of loving your homeland and rejecting the ideology imposed on it by her father. All of this as the current president of Cuba says he is not stepping down, and as President Trump continues to float the possibility of a takeover. Our Linsey Davis had this extraordinary conversation.
My passion was Cuba, my country, for many, many years. You cannot imagine the treasures that we have there.
Why did you leave?
Alina Fernandez. In Miami, pretty much everybody knows who Alina is.
Alina is one of the bravest people that I know.
Everybody know in some way or know that she was the daughter of Castro.
Keeping that secret is a little bit difficult.
Alina Fernandez, we thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today. Revolution's Daughter delves into the lives of people who were impacted by Fidel Castro's regime, and you, of course, are a central subject in the documentary. You grew up in Havana, initially not knowing that Fidel Castro was your father. What was it like for you to learn for the first time that that was your dad?
I wasn't too surprised because at that time he used to be a very late night visitor to the house. At the same time, it felt like a relief because I just lost who I consider to be my father as a traitor, as a political traitor, a few years before. But it didn't alleviate anything.
You've said before that you often feared Castro's wrath. What was your relationship with your father like?
I think it depended on him. It was never dictated by my needs or my emotion. He was a busy person, and he showed up eventually every 2-3 years, all of a sudden.
Your escape from Cuba in the 90s is the stuff of legend. What gave you the courage to leave everything behind in an act of rebellion against your own father's regime?
Well, let me say that the Cubans, we have been the subject of a very bizarre social experiment, which is that we have to survive under a revolution that had lasted already 67 years. So imagine what the French would have done if they had lasted as long, right? And it's been a very traumatic experience for 5 generations of Cuba. Cubans. And I didn't have the courage to go and get in a raft to take my daughter out of the country, but I did try my best, and I was able to escape with a falsified passport many, many years ago.
The documentary Revolution's Daughter features you and other prominent Cuban-born Americans like Gloria Estefan. What's the overriding message that you hope viewers will take away and hold on to?
We want to keep the subject of Cuba alive. Like it is in this moment, we are waiting for something to happen. Everybody has expectations about the actual situation. It's very confusing, it's hopeful, and at the same time, it's a bitter one. But we have waiting for so long to see Cuba free.
The documentary, of course, comes during a critical time in Cuba. We're seeing the worst economic and energy crises on the island in decades, with President Trump suggesting that the regime will ultimately be toppled. How do you see all of this playing out?
I will say that this is not something that is happening now. We've been having this situation for many, many years, I think. The Cuban economy never worked. It's a social experiment that it never worked.
You've called for regularly for decades, as you did just a few moments ago, for a free Cuba throughout your life as an activist. What changes are most necessary, would you say, to achieve that goal?
I think that the regime lost the war against the imperialism, which is the war against America. And I think it's common sense to give up and do the best for your people. I think that an administrator, a president, needs to attend the needs of its own people. And we've been living for decades already in misery just because of an ideological madness.
Is there something that the Cuban people can or should be doing, in your estimation?
It's impossible to overthrow a regime like this, just banging in cuisine goods. It's very difficult. It's very difficult. They are showing their needs in the way they can. They are afraid. They are repressed. It's a very tough situation right now, but people are suffering, and they've been suffering for years. And it's good that at this moment, and thanks to this administration, for example, the world is looking at what has been happening in Cuba for years.
Melina Fernandez, we thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate you joining us.
Thank you.
And our thanks to Linsey for that conversation. Coming up, the new details on the new rule that will automatically enroll young men for the U.S. military draft. And The Testaments, the sequel to The Handmaid's Tale, is finally out. Stars Chase Infinity and Lucy Halliday take us inside the dystopian world of Gilead and what we can expect from the spinoff. A near miss during a traffic stop caught on camera. The animals just added to the endangered species list. And Raise Your Glass, the host of the Tonys, just announced. These stories and more in tonight's rundown. A close call for two Florida deputies conducting a routine traffic stop as they were almost hit by another vehicle last night. The car came barreling towards them, crashing into the rear of one of the patrol vehicles. The driver of the striking vehicle was arrested and charged with DUI. The U.S. plans to roll out a system by December that automatically registers young men under the age of 26 for the military draft. The idea is gaining fresh attention online. President Trump signed the National Defense Authorization Act, which includes this provision last December. Currently, most 18 to 25-year-old men must be registered into the draft pool, but they have to do it manually. There hasn't been a U.S. military draft since 1973. Tori Spelling is speaking out after she and her kids and their friends were involved in a car crash that left them hospitalized last week. The Beverly Hills 90210 alum took to Instagram and shared a video update after the April 2nd incident.
Guardian angels were definitely with us that day.
Spelling said she was in the car with 4 of her kids and 3 of their friends in Temecula, California last week when she said a driver going, quote, crazy fast hit her vehicle.
Still putting my thoughts together about everything that happened.
No arrests have been made and the cause of the crash remains under investigation. The emperor penguin and Antarctic fur seal are now listed as endangered in an updated International Union for Conservation of Nature red list. Emperor penguins moved from near threatened to endangered, and the Antarctic fur seal precipitously has declined, losing about 57% of their adult population in the last 3 generations. The population has declined, researchers say, due to climate change, which is altering ice conditions and impacting food availability for these species. The IUCN is the world's largest environmental network and provides scientific expertise on biodiversity conservation. Kit Kat is leveling up and not playing around this time. A truckload of the Nestle brand chocolate was seen surrounded by a presidential-level security escort in Canada. It's a tongue-in-cheek marketing stunt after 12 tons of Kit Kat products were actually stolen while in transit between the factory in central Italy to the intended destination in Poland just last month. And raise your glass. Music superstar and global icon Pink will host the 79th annual Tony Awards, an evening showcasing Broadway's best. The pop icon will bring her magnetic stage presence to Radio City Music Hall on Sunday, June 7th. Tickets for the Tonys go on sale to the general public April 15th. It's the next chapter of the storied Handmaid's Tale series. The Testaments is a coming-of-age story that finds a new generation of young women in Gilead grappling with the bleak future that awaits them. Our Ike Ejiochi sits down with stars Chase Infinity and Lucy Halliday to talk about the power of young women standing up for what's right, and most of all, the hope still lingering in this upcoming spinoff.
Very cute hair. Thanks. Yours too. My socks, I look like I have that head.
Back then, we still believed in this world. I guess it's easier to accept a story than believe that the people around you are monsters.
We gather here tonight to bring women back to their rightful place.
We had no idea what we were capable of.
Lucy Halliday, Chase Infinity, welcome. Welcome. All right, we're getting right into it. The Testaments. Obviously, it's set in the same world as The Handmaid's Tale, but it's years later. Obviously, it's a sequel, but it kind of feels like its own story.
Yeah, I think the best way to describe it is it's a coming-of-age story for this new generation of Gilead, for these girls who are the daughters of high-ranking commanders. So you're kind of seeing the nobility life of Gilead in a sense.
Yeah. Daisy may be joining your class.
She's going to be a plum?
Perhaps. I'd like you to show her around, make her feel comfortable.
The thing I love about this, you guys are co-leads in this series, right? And meeting each other is actually what triggers this.
Yeah. Both Daisy and Agnes are very similar people, but they will refuse to admit that. And I think I've often described them at the very beginning as being 2 cats in a room sniffing each other out because they know there's something going on with the other one, but they don't want to admit it to themselves. But it's actually their progression through the season where their walls dissipate and they realize their similarities and their friendship grows, that they actually grow as people.
Right. And another thing, these characters are very young.
Yeah.
Right? So what is that like, playing teenagers that, I guess, go through this transition throughout the show?
It was a lot of fun to get to tap back into that and feel the excitement, the anxiety, and just the nerves of being a 14-year-old and all the things that are kind of universal about growing up. Your friends, having a first crush, going through puberty and big emotions. And then also our entire cast of girls who are with us as well. It just felt so natural going back into it with them because we all were so close and we would get together and it really felt like we were in high school together.
Right. And the thing I love about this show too is that it's very heavy.
Yeah.
You know, Agnes and Daisy, they're very complex characters. How did you guys support each other?
We're very fortunate that the atmosphere we had on set with the cast and crew was one of levity and one of support. And I think that really allowed us to reach the potential of those intense scenes and to really give it our all.
I imagine Canada's very different from Gilead.
Toronto has been forsaken by God and defiled by Satan. It is suffocating in sin.
This is a phenomenal time in your careers. Lucy, this is your breakout role here. Obviously, Chase, you're coming off a massive year with one battle after another. What does it feel like to be able to carry the torch for a show like The Handmaid's Tale?
You know, I think we both coming into it felt a weight of responsibility because The Handmaid's Tale was so prolific and important. And so we felt that weight, but we were very fortunate to be afforded so many individuals who worked in The Handmaid's Tale. We had, you know, Elizabeth Moss, Mike Barker, Bruce Miller, Ann Dowd, all these people who gave us the space to step into these characters and reassured us in stepping into this world.
Yeah, I think on top of that, like we both just feel incredibly blessed to be part of something that is almost bigger than you, and really can speak to a large group of people and can connect people.
What changed ever since she's been around? Can't that be a good thing?
Why is everybody being so touchy?
Nobody cares what we want.
This is our whole lives.
There comes a time when you have to take action.
The show has a very powerful subtext to it. How important is it for the Testaments to come out at a time like this?
The Testaments was never supposed to be a documentary. It wasn't, you know, when Margaret Atwood wrote The Handmaid's Tale and then subsequently The Testaments, they were all based on historical events that had happened. None of it was meant to be, you know, a current real-time unfolding of events. And so it's unfortunate that that's the way it's unfolded, is that actually it is a mirror to society. And I think that allows the impact to be even greater because I hope people watch it and I hope they are shocked because, yes, it's entertaining. Yes, there's a message of hope in this show, but I hope people are shocked because we should never become desensitized to scenes of this nature and we should never be comfortable with it. So I think it's timely and I hope people feel that.
Yeah, I think on top of that, I would love for people to not lose the hope. There's hope in the show. There's hope in real life as well. And that is a point that I hope that people take away from the show, as well as never losing the confidence in your own voice.
Were you fans of The Handmaid's Tale before this?
You have the biggest Margaret Atwood fan right here.
I was an incredible Margaret Atwood fan growing up. Yeah, I was a massive fan, and getting to be a part of the world is nothing short of magical.
Yeah. Lucy Alliday, Chase Infinity,
thank you so much.
It was time for us to change things. You're a dream to me.
Our thanks to Ike for that. And that's our show for this hour. I'm Juju Chang. Please stay tuned to ABC News Live for more context and analysis of the day's top stories. Thanks so much for streaming with us.